to my YouTube channel, specifically this playlist, Chloe's Cosmos, but not these cosmos. These cosmos, the ones up in the sky. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you how the Narragansett Indian tribe used the moon to create their own lunar calendar. And why is this important, you ask? Well, one, I am a member of the Narragansett tribe, and I'm also a solar system ambassador, and I just wanted to share and create a cute little video showing how the moon influenced the Narragansett Nation to create their own lunar calendar, and how the moon and watching the moon influenced them to see the nature around them and how that influenced their cultural traditions. So, with that being said, let's get into this video. Bye! In one of our education vlogs, our education manager writes how the early Narragansetts were able to track the full moons and how they noticed the changing seasons and how many moons there were in one year. She writes, "The Indians learned early that it took just 28 sunups or days to make a full moon and 13 full moons to make a great sunup a year. For many indigenous communities, the new year occurred not during this moon, but in the spring when new life was blossoming, as all of nature was reawakening from the long sleep of winter." Before the Gregorian calendar, the early Narragansett people used the full moon to track the changing seasons, and thus they created a lunar calendar. But before we understand the Narragansett lunar calendar, we have to understand the moon. So let's talk about the moon. So here are some cool science facts for you. The moon takes approximately 1 month to orbit the Earth. To be exact, it takes 28 days. So in 28 days, the moon goes through several phases. And those phases are from new moon to waxing crescent, to first quarter, to waxing gibbous, to full moon, to waning gibbous, to third quarter, to waning crescent, to new moon. Another fact to remember is that we see the same side of the moon during its orbit. The same side of the moon is always facing us. And this is important to know because we're going to learn the difference between a new moon and a full moon. A new moon is when the moon is between the Earth and the sun. And because we see the same side of the side of the moon that faces the sun gets all the light. The side that faces us, our planet, Earth, does not get any light. We are in the moon's shadow. And so have you ever looked up in the night sky and you can't find the moon anywhere? Well, she's still up there. She's just not getting any light from the sun, from the side that we can see. And so we don't see her in the sky, and that is a new moon. Compared to a full moon, when the moon is on the opposite side of the Earth from the sun. And so when the sun is shining its light on the moon, it's illuminated and it's bright. And so when we go out at night and we look into the sky, we see a big bright full moon. And this is important to note is because someone in the Narragansett Nation was watching for these full moons, and they counted that every 28 days a full moon would reappear. And how are they able to count these full moons? You can call it a gift from their creator or a coincidence because we do live on Turtle Island. But if you have ever looked at a turtle shell, there are many squares. There are small squares and big squares. These squares are called scoots. And on the rim of a turtle shell, there are 28 small scoots or small squares. And in the middle of a turtle shell, there are 13 big squares. And so someone was counting all these squares, and they noticed that every 28 days, there was a new full moon. And they were able to watch the moon and compare it to the changing seasons. And they were able to see that for one full set of seasons, there were 13 moons. And so they were able to learn that in 1 year there were 13 full moons, and that is how they created their lunar calendar. Now let's talk about the 13 moons in Narragansett culture. In January, the moon is called the moon of great white silence, or the moon of the first snow. It's named due to the snowstorms and the constant flow of snow that happens during the winter season. And during the winter season, the Narragansetts love to play a game called Snow Snake. During the month of January going into February, the moon is called the storytelling moon. And this is because due to the cold winter month, the Narragansetts stay in their homes where they share stories with their loved one, their friends, and their family, passing down their traditions to generation. This brings us to March, the moon of maple sugar, and March is when spring first begins to appear. And this is when the Narragansetts considered the new year, as this is when the earth is reawakening after a long winter slumber. This is when the Narragansetts take time to gather bark, plants, and other materials to mend and make new baskets, especially to collect sap, which will come from the maple trees. The month of April has a moon called the moon of fish, and during this time, as the spring season continues and the weather warms, the Narragansetts move from their inland winter camps to the coastline to ready themselves for the season. They make fishing traps, nets, hooks, spears, drying racks, and smoking pits, which are prepared for the variety and abundance of fish and shellfish to be had. It is now May, the planting time moon, and you all know that saying, April showers bring May flowers. May is the busiest time of the season. The Narragansetts plant the mounds of corn, beans, and squash, which create the three sisters. The other plants that the Narragansetts grew were sunchokes, gourds, tobacco, and sunflowers. And when planting, the Narragansetts intentionally cultivated patterns with the crop to yield the best crops and to allow the land to rest to avoid overuse and promote regeneration. It is now June, and that means it will be the strawberry moon. It's summertime, and it's time for the heartberry. June is also known for our celebration of the Strawberry Thanksgiving, a cultural celebration that is filled with the sound of drum, followed by traditional dancing, food, and fun for all ages. The Narragansett thank the Creator for the gift of the heartberry, the berry of friendship. The berries were known to be mixed with our cornmeal to make strawberry bread, and these berries were dried and stored for the winter for us to eat. Fresh berries were mashed and also made into tea. And guess what? These strawberries are packed with vitamin C. It is now July, and this is the moon of the great sun. Summer is upon us, and with the hot sun beating upon us, we called this moon the moon of great sun. Because of the moon of the great sun, we can engage in our favorite summertime activities such as swimming, games like hubbub, repairing arrows, bows, and other tools such as baskets, canoes, clay pots, and so much more. This is also the time where we can have our clam bakes, a delicious way to honor the Creator for the gifts of the water and celebrate this time of year. It is now August, which brings us to our thunder moon. And why is the moon called the thunder moon? Because of all the thunderstorms that plague the sky during this month. The thunder moon occurs at the beginning of the 28-day cycle, and during thunder moon, many of the Narragansett Nation would celebrate green corn Thanksgiving. And now from August until September, we see the second moon, the corn moon. This is the time when much of the corn is in full growth and ready for picking. We are now in September, and this is the season of the corn moon. This is the time when the corn is edible, and animals are gathering and storing food for the winter, and the leaves are beginning to change colors. This is an important time because corn was a main food staple for many Native American cultures, and this is also the time when the Narragansett Nation gives thanks for the gift of corn from the Creator. We come now to October, the season of the harvest moon, also known as the moon of the falling leaves, and during this time we celebrate our cranberry Thanksgiving. Next is November, the season of the hunter's moon. The hunter's moon begins its transformation from crescent to full around the end of October and into November. In November, the days are getting shorter and the weather is getting colder. Animals are foraging, gathering, and storing up for the winter months ahead. And white-tailed deer are in their breeding season, and hunters have prepared their weapons. As deer were seen as more than just a source of food, they provided a variety of essentials such as antlers, tools, garden rakes, awls, jewelry, games, and even clothing. And now we come to the month of December, also known as the season of the moon of darkness. The year ends with the moon of darkness, as this is the first of the winter moons. And it's time to thank the Creator for all the gifts we have received through the harvest seasons, which have been prepared and stored for the cold months and snows to come. It is a time when we transition from predominantly outdoor activities to indoor, and during this time, we celebrate Nanepaûshat, a giveaway celebration, a ceremony that gives thanks for all the blessings you have by giving away as much as you can to others, giving a